意味不明なんだが。はあ？取り込み中ですけど？
Hello, I'm Silveroxis, and this week's unit coming to Octopath Traveler COTC is Nivelle. He's a young scholar, and he is obsessed with the dark arts, as you'll see in his Traveler story. So he is a scholar, and his role is a lightning DPS slash support. His special ability is that he brings the shock debuff into the game that allows him to have lightning skills shave 2 shields per hit rather than 1. So that's like really good for lightning support. Basically, you throw shock on, and then every single lightning hit counts as 2 shields instead of 1. It's still only 1 hit in terms of damage, though. This will only work for actual native lightning magic skills. It will not work for lightning exploit. So his preferred weapons would be Cosmic Tome for damage, some damage cap, as Nivelle can struggle with damage cap, or Brilliant Tomes are even good for even more damage cap. But with enough damage cap accessories, then you can go Pure Fortune Tomes and then matching magic attack as well. His preferred accessories would be damage cap up accessories and magic attack boosting ones. However, not listed here is that he also might want breaker gear if you want to make him your lightning breaker, as you'll see from his passive skills. So for his passive skills, so his basic passive is while there's a shocked enemy, the front row gets 30% magic attack up. This is actually pretty good, as there will almost always be a shocked enemy if Nivelle's around. So that means the front row is just permanently getting a passive 30% capped magic attack up, or at least 30% out of the 50% up if Isla's there. 3-star passive is status ailments inflicted by Nivelle get +1 turn duration. This applies to his shock, so basically just every time he inflicts shock, it's 1 more turn than the skills say. And then his TP passive is self 30% lightning damage up, and the ability to gain to crit with magic attacks. This is good because he just caps his own damage up, so he's good to go. This was also buffed and improved based over the Japanese version of the game. Is that if Nivelle breaks an enemy that is shocked, then he will implant 3 stacks of fire and lightning weakness. So many people already know what implant does, but if you don't, I'll go in and explain. This is actually where implant is entering the game for us, unlike where it entered the game, I believe, with Tiziano in the Japanese version. Implant is a new mechanic that adds weaknesses to an enemy, regardless if they have them or not, as stacks. And if they already have this weakness, then they'll take an extra 20% damage from those hits instead. Each stack of an implant equals 1 hit from an attack for that weakness until they're all depleted. In Nivelle's case, if he is breaking, they're gonna have to be weak to lightning or fire already, so this really isn't going to enable like other units to start exploiting enemies with their skills. This is mainly just going to be giving the next 3 hits on break after 20% damage up, which is still pretty good. Implant stacks are applied after the attack that breaks is finished, not during. So, like for example, if you were to break with Nivelle's 3 hit that inflicts shock, and the first hit breaks, the other 2 hits of that 3-hit attack are not going to take away implant stacks because they're not going to be applied till after that attack is concluded. The only real way I can see this being like useful in some ways is if for some reason you wanted to like do extra damage with lightning and fire on 1 break, and you had Cyrus in your team or Oswald in the future. Then you could have like Nivelle break and implants 3 stacks of fire and lightning, and then you could have Nivelle or another lightning DPS do the lightning stacks, and then Cyrus or Oswald could switch and use fire skills to hit those 3 fire implants. And I know Oswald isn't out yet, but that's just an example for like in the future if you're trying to build around this. So moving on to his skills, base kit is that he just has a 1-hit single target lightning that inflicts shock for 2 turns. He can reveal weaknesses based on boost level, 3-hit single target tome, 3-hit random target lightning that exploits fire weakness, and this inflicts 25% lightning res down for 2 turns per hit. This is basically the standard scholar like 3-hit random target that debuffs, except his is buffed to do 25% instead of 15%. So you can basically almost just solo this if you don't care about that extra 5%. He has a self 30% lightning resistance up and counter physical attacks buff, which will allow him to counter with a 1-hit lightning counter. And then he also has a 3-hit AoE lightning that also exploits fire weakness. 4-star skills. He has the ability to inflict swift strikes, kind of like Solon can. It's a one-hit AoE lightning that'll be at the first. That'll happen at the beginning of every turn, based on the amount of boost that you do. This skill will also exploit fire weakness at the start of the turn. It also has a small 25% chance to inflict paralysis. So if you were going to make Nivelle your breaker, you would want to bring this skill to have this be the one that breaks, so that way he can immediately start nuking. So that this would combo back with like with this implant. So if you have this break and then he's doing his 3-hit single target nuke, then those 3 hits would all get the 20% damage up from the implant, just for example. Or if he's using his ultimate attack, which I'll cover later, the first 3 hits of his ultimate would get the 20% damage up. For his 5-star skills, he has a 4-hit random target lightning that exploits fire weakness and has a small 25% chance to inflict 25% magic defense down for 2 turns per hit. So this has the potential to just like basically almost max magic defense down if every single hit procs the ability. 25% is also a lot. And then he also has a 2-hit single target lightning that inflicts shock for 3 turns. And the 6-star upgrade changes this to a 3-hit single target with slightly less power per hit, but overall more power overall. His TP skill is a front row 30% lightning damage up for 2 to 5 turns. That's good because that is active damage up, but so that's also useful. So moving on to his EX skill and ultimate technique. His EX skill has 2 total uses. It's unlocked from turn 3 and onward. And it's a 1-hit AoE lightning that also inflicts shock. This is only a way to inflict shock AoE, so it can be useful to throw out if you want to get shock out. And then for his ultimate technique, it's a DPS class ultimate, so it takes 4 BP to charge from level 8. It's called Bolts of Defiance, and it's a 5-hit AoE lightning, and it gains 200% potency if the target is shocked, which is basically 3 times power. Its base is 5 times 65 power, and it scales to 5 times 75 at ultimate level 10. This potency up is specifically to ultimate potency, so it can stack with Solon's ultimate to get an extra 100%. For ultimate priority, I would consider A1ing him first due to DPS, but then ultimate 10, as his ultimate is his best nuking option. So a lot of times you only need to use 1 ult and you're fine, and then you can use the 3-hit. Otherwise, if you want to try to do like a double ult setup or something like that using Canary and then Solon to boost it, then you might want to get ult 10 before A1. That's kind of up to you. And like I said earlier, ultimate is his best nuking option, so if you do have him break with like his swift strikes, and with his implant stacks, if he's the one that uses them up before other units take them, then the first 3 hits of his ultimate will take up the 20% extra damage from the implant for the lightning. So moving on to his Awakenings, A4, and his exclusive accessories. So A1 is good because he's a DPS, and A1 is good for all DPS with that base magic attack. A2 it's a luxury. He can make do with 3 skills. He does have some good options though, so having 4 can be useful, but I wouldn't necessarily chase A2 over it. A3, Scholars are squishy, so HP is always good. His A4 accessory is called the T-Brick of Memories. It gives 40 SP, 60 magic attack, and 40 speed. And when attacking, there's a low 25% chance to inflict 10% lightning resistance down for 2 turns. And while a broken enemy is present, grant the self the ability to crit with magic attacks, plus grant dead aim. So for this A4, it's actually like an A+ tier A4. It's a very solid A4 because this A4 was also buffed. When the wearer attacks with damaging attacker skills, you might get some passive lightning resistance down, which is always good to extend Teresa's A4 to reach break in order to cap. Also, this functions like a magic version of an FDA4, giving the wearer dead aim and the ability to crit with magic. So like Nivelle already has the ability to crit with magic, but for like other magic DPSs that don't, this is great on them because now they can crit with magic and have permanent crit. And this could also just give him dead aim, so like dead aim is very good. And this dead aim would also work for physical too, so if you don't have an FDA4 and you want to chase this, you can. Or you could exchange for it over time, that's up to you, but it's a very solid A4 accessory. And like as I said, like yeah, dead aim is good because just getting that permanent crit can be very useful for damage. And then his exclusive accessory is called the Memorial Handkerchief. It just gives 40 speed, and when you use 3 BP, he would gain priority on his attack. He has a Swift Strike skill, so he doesn't need this at all, and it doesn't boost magic attack at all. So if you intend on making a break to make use of his implant skill, just use the Swift Strikes. You don't need to waste an accessory slot. Equipping is exclusive. So for an optimal skill loadout, I would say you run his 3-hit single target lightning with 3 turns of shock. Shock is his best gimmick. You want this activated for fast shield shaving and to trigger his passives. And this is a very strong nuking option that's probably going to slam damage cap pretty easily. It's unfortunate it's only 3 hits at 6-star, but what can you do? But getting 4 turns of shock with his passive is really nice. Skill 2, I would definitely take his 3-hit random target lightning that inflicts lightning res down, because I mean you just want damage. You want that res down. That's good for everything if you're running lightning. I would recommend taking his TP front active lightning damage up, because that just caps the damage up even higher, which is important. This is not as necessary potentially for using Isla to give damage up, because he is a scholar, so you'd get that. It won't be as much, but it's still an option. For skill 4, you could take the 4-hit random target lightning that inflicts magic defense down if you need it for debuffing magic defense, and it's good for shields. And then I'd not listed here, but is that you could also take his, like I said earlier, his Swift Strike skill if you're intending to make him break to make use of that implant damage bonus. So for unit synergy, Isla is really great for great lightning support for high hit counts and lightning damage and ult magic damage up. Isla would gain a 10-hit shield shave with shock active with the 5-hit random target lightning skill, or an 8-hit AoE with shock, which is very solid. Canary is great for general debuffing and breaking if you don't want to have Nivelle buff, since to break just to get that, just for the implants. Solon for ult buffing if necessary is always good. Signa for Signa reasons. Ultimate debuffs are amazing. Primrose EX for regen and ultimate buffs as well, and lightning hits. And you would also need Primrose X if you want to double ult with either Solon or double ult with Nivelle for highest DPS possible, so that's an option as well. And then, Cyrus is fine for hitting 3-hit shield shaving with shock to be 6 AoE, and Cyrus you can also bring along if you're intending to have Nivelle break, like I said earlier, because then Cyrus could switch to a fire skill to get that extra 20% damage up from the implant for fire as well. So whether you should pull or not to pull for Nivelle, he's a solid lightning DPS by his own right. He brings support by adding shock to the game. His main flaws come from that he lacks solid multi-hits for high damage, with his best being his ultimate, but that requires a stone to use it twice. He can enable other lightning DPSs in the future as well, because shock is also something that Oswald can do as well in the future. And his biggest flaw, however, is simply that magic pales in comparison to physical damage. So while there are a few fights it's optimal to use magic, and he can be right to bring for lightning, it's not super required. Like, he does also do provide great magic support with his passives, granting front row magic attack up to 30% is great. But other than that, it's like there's other units that can do that too, so it's not like the biggest deal. He also introduces the implant mechanic to the game for us instead of, like, as I said, JP's Tiziano. But his is more of the bonus damage side of implant rather than letting others hit things they normally couldn't side. So keep that in mind. It's really just about getting that extra damage on break. So as always, ignore pull advice if you love the unit and you think it's really cool. If you want him, pull him, have fun. But if you're a tier 4 player, I would skip, save for physical hitters over magic. Tier 3 low spin and passes, skip. I mean, unless you really need a pass SP and want a pity here, but I'd personally wait for Huge Ebb. But, like, you can pull to 200 if you really need Canary now, but I would wait for Huge Ebb, to be honest. For Tier 2, I mean, you get 1 copy per access the shock, could be useful for any lightning team, or you could skip. He has all his support options just from the get-go, so you only need 1 copy for that. And if you're a whale, A4 ult 10, his A4 is extremely good. You'll use it in a lot of places, and it's useful for all lightning builds. So overall, I'd rate his DPS B. It's honestly B tier. Only has a 3-hit nuke that's going to slam damage cap, or his best nuking option being a 5-hit on his ultimate, which is kind of limiting. His support is very strong and given an A tier support because passive magic attack up capped and adding shock to the game. He doesn't have any healing or tank abilities, so overall I'd rate him as a B+ unit. He's not bad. He's just really strong in his niche, and the problem is that his niche is magic, and physical dominates this game currently. and in the future, and the foreseeable future. But anyway, that is Nivelle. If anyone is pulling for him, please let me know below and let me know how you did. And otherwise, thanks for watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe for more Octopath Traveler COTC content in the future. And otherwise, thanks for watching and have a wonderful day.